Welcome back, warrior. Okay, we are reading Genesis chapter 40. It says, Joseph interprets the dreams of Pharaoh's chief butler and chief baker. The butler fails to tell Pharaoh about Joseph. Well, yeah. Okay. So here we go, verse 1. Oh, excuse me. Getting tired over here. It's already 1.5 miles, and yesterday we walked 4.4 miles. Anyway, okay, here we go. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sad today, so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream. And he just stand up straight. We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. Okay, so he's like, oh, I got you. Right? And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, In my dream, behold, I have a vine. Behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine there were three branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, and after the former manner, when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be... Oh, sorry, let me reread that. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of his house. Makes sense, okay? Because he's like, I'm going to be here forever if I can't get out of this place, right? For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, yeah. And behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. Okay. And in the uppermost basket, there was all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. And remember, Joseph was not shy, right? He had confidence in the Lord. He was going to tell things how it was, even if they sounded bad, right? He says, And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, they had made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. That's crazy. But also sad, right? You just think oh, poor guy. Poor butler. Poor baker. The ancient Jewish scholar Josephus called the butler the king's cupbearer, which goes along with the Hebrew interpretation of butler, which is one who gives to drink. So both the butler and the baker had dreams that must have been different from a typical dream and had left deep impressions upon them. And they were both in vulnerable positions, having offended the king of Egypt, Pharaoh himself. So in this delicate position, these dreams really bothered them, which makes sense, right? So Joseph then went on to interpret their dreams, and he, of course, gives the Lord credit for, and he used the moment to teach others about God. He was fulfilling the Abrahamic covenant, to which he was an heir to everywhere he went, no matter the difficult circumstance he was in. He was pointing others to God. It was interesting to know that the name Joseph means he will add, or to increase in Hebrew. That is a perfect name for one who gathered others to God. Oh, that's cute. Joseph then demonstrated the gift of the Spirit that he had, which was to interpret dreams. The interpretation was good news for the chief butler and bad news for the chief baker. Right? Sad for them. Okay, now we're going to read our Read It, Live It. Oh, sweating now, which I don't normally do when I'm walking, but we still have the incline right now of 8? I know my treadmill's weird. Okay, anyway, yep, we're at 8. And we're with the weight now. Okay, so Genesis chapter 40. This is our Read It, Live It. Okay, and it says, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you." Joseph didn't have all the answers, but he knew who did. Sometimes faith looks like pointing upward, even when you're still in the waiting. Look to God. Now, I love that so much because sometimes when we are in the waiting, especially, it's hard to turn to God, right? It's so hard to be like, well, actually, in fact, it's easier to turn away from God when we're going through hard challenges because we think that he didn't protect us from it, right? Like, oh, how come God didn't tell me? Or how come he's not helping me through this? Or whatever. But it isn't until we're out of that trial that we can actually see how God has helped us throughout that entire trial, through that entire life circumstance, through our hardships. And I know for a fact that I am grateful that instead of becoming bitter, that I stayed with Jesus Christ and that I stayed with my testimony throughout my trauma that I was experiencing, my broken heart, my just soul vexing pain. Like, I am so grateful that I stayed with Christ and Heavenly Father, even though it was really hard, because I know what it's like to be in the dark, and it's not good. It's not good. And there's nothing healing from the dark. Like, I could have I could have been bitter, but because I knew what was there, I was like, no, it's fine. I would rather go and stay where there's healing, right? And so hope and healing, like that is what I just had to have. So anyway, that is just that's the message I think that I take away from Joseph's story, is that no matter how hard it can get, and it can get real hard, that we stay with Christ, because in the end, it's always going to work out. And what does President Hinckley say? If it hasn't worked out, it's not the end, or something like that. Anyway, I love it. So, okay, that is it for Genesis chapter 40. Until Genesis chapter 41, stay strong, warrior.